Good morning. I'm Dr. Vista Parisoe, or Dr. V, my clients call me, and friends. Well, not friends, but just real easy. First off, a little bit about me. I have 2 autistic grandchildren, so I'm quite familiar. Some very low functioning, one mid to high, but I really didn't know that NeuroFeedback would really help children with all different types of things. I don't just work with children, I also work with adults, but it really helps with a lot of different things. It helps with whether it's anxiety, depression, learning disabilities, autism, peak performance, people that are in high profile jobs or in sports or something, they're looking to gain some extra clarity or focus, ADHD, you name it. It helps so many things, insomnia, migraines, the list goes on and on and on. Has anyone ever heard of NeuroFeedback or used NeuroFeedback? Oh, okay. Well, then maybe I'll give you a little more information on what NeuroFeedback is. So, NeuroFeedback is actually brain retraining. Now, it's not a cure. I'm going to tell you that right up front. It is not a cure. But in my practice over the last, I would say, 15 years, I have seen kids from a high 30 of a self-report from a parent drop all the way down to a 10 in anxiety. Now, that's huge in your children or in the adult. I've also seen kids that have, by doing neurofeedback, have also reduced any type of fears, phobias, tics, all types of things. It's reduced them. I've seen kids and parents that have also had the benefit of reducing down medication sometimes. Some have completely stopped their medication because it wasn't necessary once their brain retrained. So what is neurofeedback and what does it do? Well, simply put, it's kind of like, I always describe a Rubik's Cube. A Rubik's Cube, personally cannot do one, to be honest, but I do, all the children that come in my office can. And they can sit there and just reorganize that thing until it's just perfect. And they make sure they get it right. Well, that's kind of like neurofeedback. It retrains the brain by reorganizing dysregulated brain waves. We all have them. I have them, you have them. I did neurofeedback for insomnia and migraines about 12 years ago. And it reduced the amount of migraines I had. It reduced the medication that I needed. And as far as insomnia, I don't even take anything for that. I was up to 3 Benadryl a night. And because if I took Ambien or anything like that, I saw little green men and it was just not for me. Nobody needs a chemical put in if you don't need it. Okay, so for us, if we can reduce medication in our children, I'm all for it. I was getting kids with multiple diagnoses of ADHD, autism, ODD, you name it. They were coming in with disruptive, just multiple things. And being able to use neurofeedback to reduce some of these. We had a young man recently in our office. He came in and he had started a phobia of his parents. Fear, terror of his parents. If they were even in the room, he had to walk over here and go that way. He could not even be in the same room without fear. They'd never spanked him. They'd never done anything. He's autistic. He's 17. He's high functioning, except for where his parents are concerned. And we watched this kid after neurofeedback, and watching him through therapy and different things allowed him to finally, his parents called and said, Dr. V, we have our kid back. He's talking to us again. I mean, there's nothing, it'll just make you emotional to see this kid. If you had seen him, the dad could never walk behind him. He had to walk in front of him because he felt like he was being watched. Dr. C saw it, it was just crazy. And we were like, what in the world? And it just started out of nowhere. He didn't always do that. It was about 4 years ago. And so all of a sudden, being able to see this change, it's just so well worth it. And what difference would it make in your child or in your life? I couldn't tell you. Everybody's chemistry is different. But all I know is it works and it helps. So what is it? All right, so what we're doing is it's just the process of adjusting your activity, and it's called operant conditioning. If you want to do some research on that, that's what it's called. It's called operant conditioning. As someone is doing neurofeedback, what happens is they're watching a screen. If your child watches videos, we know we do. If we watch a video, all you need to do is for 35 minutes. You do it for 35 minutes, you sit there, you watch a video, something they're gonna enjoy anyway, something that intrigues them, not overstimulating, not understimulating, just something that's gonna keep them intrigued. You don't want something that's gonna give them hyperarousal or anything that's gonna keep them, hypervigilant or anything like that. I know they love to watch all of their action stuff or play their games and all that kind of thing that just kind of gives a lot of startle responses. We don't want a startle response during neurofeedback. So if it's just something that would intrigue them, when they're watching this, what happens is the brain triggers when there's a dysregulated brain wave and that screen will fade. Well, it would frustrate any of us. The brain says, that needs to be brighter, putting it in simple terms. And so what happens with operant conditioning, it starts to change that shading and that video fade starts to get brighter. Over time, the more regulated the brain waves are, the brighter the screen is. After a while, they don't even notice it's going in and out, but in the beginning, it's frustrating. It would be frustrating for us. So I just kind of walk them through it, talk them through, it's gonna go, just keep watching. And eventually, it's kind of like living next to a train. You finally don't hear it. Well, you finally don't see it. So it's really pretty cool. All right, so what do we need to do? In order to find out whether or not your child or you needed to do that, we do what we call a brain map. A brain map is by using a quantitative EEG, okay? It is an electroencephalogram. You've heard of EEGs. This is a quantitative EEG, and what it does is it feeds us information from the brain. There are 19 points that we do that actually check out all the different brains. There are lobes in the brain, just like there are in the lungs. There's different brain waves that we're looking for. There's alpha, beta, delta, and theta. So all of these brain waves do different things. And so some are for anxiety, some are gonna pick up for the arousal, some are gonna pick up for depression, some are gonna be your emotional, you have your frontal, you're gonna have your temporal, you have your parietal, you have your occipital, and then you have the central zone. We can do a brain map even on just people that come in and the parents are like, we're not sure what's going on, there's something up, they're kind of quirky, they're kind of this, they're kind of that, they're not sure. A brain map will tell us if there's sensory integration issues. A brain map will tell us if there's food sensitivities. Parents didn't tell us, but the brain will tell us. The brain will also tell you lots of things because, hello, that's what makes us tick. So that's neurofeedback. That's what we do. We do a brain map. The brain map then feeds us information. We give you questionnaires to complete that gives us your self-report. Then we mirror the self-report next to the actual brain, the brain map itself, and you can see how well do you know your child's brain. Sometimes you're right on point, and if you see a high red, you know there is higher dysregulated brain waves probably there. So then we determine, is your child a candidate for neurofeedback? Just because it's good for everybody, we look for clinical deviations. We want something that's it's definitely gonna be worth your while to have it done. Yes, everybody could benefit from it, but does your child would they really benefit from it? So we're not one of those that says, okay, everybody needs to get it. No, if it's not, then we'd say, you know what, yes, you can do it, but really, he's doing great. Pick your time. If you want to do it in the summer, let's do it in the summer. If you homeschool and you have your kid all the time, it's amazing because we do home units so that the home units can go home. You're not coming into our office. It costs you more money to do that, or it costs, if you have a guardian, gardener or whatever it's called, whatever kind of scholarships that you have possible, it's cheaper if they do it at home. Plus, it is unlimited use. For 30 days. You could do it 3 times a day. And the more you do it, the better it is. The more you do it, the more you see the benefit of it. So it's, it's just it's a great way. It's just another modality, but it's an amazing modality that actually works with what's going on up here. How can we do some changing of that, trying to get it to a more optimum level. So any questions? Is that clear as mud? Yes, ma'am. Most of the time it does not. Unfortunately, as y'all have found, if it works and doesn't have a drug attached, they don't always love to pay. We've had 1 or 2 HSA. If you have an HSA account, that does cover it. Guardianship, Gardner covers it, or Step Up, I think is what it's called now. But as far as insurance, it's very specific. If you have an insurance company that covers it, but HSA, obviously they always allow us to use HSA. Yes, ma'am.
What's the difference between neurofeedback and quantum biofeedback?
So neurofeedback is technically biofeedback. Quantum biofeedback, depending on who you are, would list it differently or the same. So really, biofeedback, there's multiple forms of biofeedback. Neurofeedback is a form of biofeedback. We have different ways. We have an audio-visual entrainment aid also that we use for biofeedback that's added on to their program, where it's actually, they can listen to just binaural beats. And honestly, I've had kids that could not sleep at all, and the parents would put it on just for like 30 minutes before the kids go to bed. They're just listening. It's really getting them in a calm mode rather than a hyper mode of lots of screen time that day or whatever was going on that day. And the parents literally told me, she doesn't ever sleep. I don't know what I'm going to do. And they started using, no drugs. They started using this, and the mom said within 15 minutes she'd have to go in and take the headphones off her head. She'd fell asleep.
I have a question.
Yes.
So my son has a problem with self-entertaining himself, and you know, we were so anti-screen time, and now we're like, please watch 10 minutes of TV. Like, just watch some TV, anything, and he won't. So in terms of, I've known a family who said that you're watching a TV with how would you go about that if?
So there's 2 ways. You can actually do neurofeedback with your eyes closed. You don't have to have them open. We choose eyes open because that's generally what people want to do, is they want to just do something mindless while they're actually doing something amazing, and they don't know it. But they can actually close their eyes. I've worked with multiple children that from, you know, high functioning to low functioning. I had a little boy, nonverbal. I couldn't understand a word he said. He had an interpreter that helped me, but it was just sounds. But he came in, they didn't think he would do a brain map. We managed a brain map miraculously. You do not have to do a brain map, but it is optimum to do a brain map. But as far as neurofeedback, the parents said they struggled a couple of times with him being still, and after a while they found sometimes it was just music. It doesn't have to be a video, it could be music, it could be almost anything. You can put a game on for them to visualize, but there's no joystick, there's nothing, they're just sitting there relaxing. So it's really, you know, it's a trial and error thing too. You just have to kind of check and see. Each child is going to be different. But so far, I've not had any that didn't map or wasn't able to map or to do the neurofeedback. However, I do have colleagues that they said, and I do know you do not have to do a brain map to start therapy. So you can actually start, and the first thing they're going to start is the central zone, because that's where the sensory integration is. Yes.
Just so you're recorded that way.
I'm going to assume that the answer is younger is better, but is there ideal age to get things started at? And is there a ceiling where it's almost like they're too old really to benefit?
No, and the reason I say that is last year or 2 years ago, we had a gentleman come in. He had been diagnosed at age 60. He was 64. This gentleman, high-profile job, he created banking systems for the government. And this man was brilliant. No social skills, high anxiety, depressed, it was just all over the map stuff. And he went from, he was one of my high 30s that went down to a 7 in his anxiety level. He is now more social. The depression is gone. And this is the cool thing. He said, and you know what? I'm better at my job. I was going to retire. I think I'll wait a couple years. So it doesn't matter. Now, sitting still, is there an optimum time to do a brain map? Really, it just depends. I've done them as young as 4. So it just depends if they'll sit still long enough. The hardest part, and I know that, you know, they're not going to let you do that. Well, I make it fun for them. I ask them, do you like slime? And of course, all kids, most kids, unless they don't like the texture. Some of them don't like the texture. They love slime. I said, well, I'm going to slime you. And so I show them that it's a blunted, it's not, you know, even if they have needle aversions, we show them it's blunted. I let them play with it first, let them see what it is. You want to slime Dr. V? I've had kids slime me. Whatever it takes to help these kids get to a level, because with a brain map, it's going to help us see how best to help them. It's not that we can't start, it's just it gives me a more pinpointed area protocol to say, this is what you need to go to after you do the central zone.
What is the name of your company, or like, how do we
It's
find this?
MindWorks Psychological Services. And we brought some cards for you guys, if you'd like, that has just a little bit of blurb about it. It has our information, how to contact us, how to contact me, Dr. Carmichael. And she's got those. She can pass those out in some brochures
Yeah,
that we have.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm not from here. I'm in Ohio.
Okay.
So how do we find, like, wherever everyone else is from in our community, how do we find out about?
Contact me, I'll find you somebody.
Okay.
And then they'll do brain map. They can do the map. I have clients all over the United States. So we ship our units everywhere. So they can go anywhere. You can use the units, or you can actually get someone there. If you prefer to have someone local, then we'll find you someone in your area that actually does it.
Would a neurologist do a brain map?
Not this type of brain map, unless they're certified to do neurofeedback. I mean, you may have a neurologist out there that does it. They have someone, trust me, they have someone in their office, not them, that does it.
Is the quantitative EEG the same as a brain map?
Yes.
Okay.
That's a QEEG. If you hear somebody say, do a Q, then the QEEG is a brain map. Now, there are different types of brain maps out there. Amen does it, but what they do is more heat, light, lots of different things, a different look. But ours is for the benefit of doing neurofeedback. Theirs is to read off to tell you where the dysfunctions are, or the problems are, and what supplements that might be good. Speaking of that, when you do a brain map, we don't sell supplements, we don't push anything like that, but the brain will actually tell you what your child is deficient in based on a brain map. That's pretty amazing. Instead of all of us guessing, I don't know if it's this, I don't know if it's that, I've bought so many supplements, I don't know what to do, they won't take them, what gummy does he need? It actually shows you that on a brain map.
Awesome.
Thank you so much. Oh, you got one more? Here you go.
I got two
Hang on one
questions.
second.
How long
I'm
has this
hungry.
been around? And it seems like I've never heard of it before. And like, is it available, I guess, nationwide?
It is nationwide, and this has been around for a long time. I would say it started in the 30s and 40s, but of course back then they all thought they were quacks. And in the 50s they thought they were quacks. In the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, they still think we're quacks. However, it is now very widespread. There is a lot of data out there on it, on neurofeedback. Just email me. I'll send you tons of resources that are out there that even talk about the efficacy and everything about neurofeedback and how long. Of course, they always start on rats. And they started testing these, rats to find out. It's used a lot we do a lot with PTSD with people from the military. So, I mean, it's worldwide. They use a lot of it also at spine centers. Anybody with a TBI, a lot of football players with all of these post-concussive issues and things like that, and have seen we have tons of articles on different types of things over the years, and I've been doing it since 2010. Actively, so using it. So I think that, but it was around probably 30 years before that.
Our son is 2 years old, and of course, he has CHAMP1 and nonverbal, of course. Will he benefit from that now, or should we wait to get him tested?
He could, whether he's tested or not, he could benefit from it. Could he sit still for 30 minutes watching, Paw Patrol? If he can, then he can do it.
Okay.
That's really all you're looking for. Can they sit still for 35 minutes?
Okay. Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
I would imagine that's the biggest challenge. I don't know if my child could. We're interested in doing it. I don't know if my child could sit still for 30 minutes.
Just interested in the
Yes.
availability in Canada and things like around the world.
I would imagine. I mean, it's everywhere. My conference, we have another conference that was on today, but I can't watch that too. And they're all over. They're in England. They're in Canada. It's everywhere. It's Australia. It's everywhere.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Really
you
appreciate it.
guys for letting me be here.